Hey guys, Dan Percival here. I want to go over the fourth prototype of the Xtreme ice skate since I had just received it, and I have it right here on the table, so let me show you. So this would be the fourth. So it's not so much of how it looks right now, because I still have to have my name stamped on there, and we're going to change the X a little bit because it doesn't see how the corner here, it doesn't come to the, this here should come over to the corner. There's like little cut marks because this is all handmade, guys. It's not going to be like perfect as hockey skates, because hockey skates, they make them by a machine, so you got to realize it's not going to be perfect machine like. There will be some minor blemishes in the skate, since it is handmade, but in regards to how it looks, yeah, this is just to give you an idea. But right now, this prototype is just to be going over more, or to solve the problem of well, issues with the skate, how the skate should perform, how it should fit. So let me just go over that now, and I'll start with the prior prototype, which would be this one. By the way, this was the second prototype. The third prototype was this skate, but without some of the functions in it. So I didn't do a video of the third. So that way, in case you get confused between the second, well, and the fourth, you'll know that the third was the in-between skate that just never got a video. All right. So the second prototype here, and I believe I did this over the summer, because you'll see that in my last video. And actually, I'll post up a response video. I talked about how this was too narrow here at the heel, and how it wasn't stiff enough, and how the bottom needed to fit a little better. And look at this, you know, it's a flimsy tongue, and so on and so forth. We actually put, in this model, we actually did put bigger lace holes here. No hockey laces, because we're not working on the actual look of the skate here. We're still working on the performance. So here we go. This is what we solved. So I'm going to put this side by side, and then I'm going to talk about what has to be solved with the new prototype, this fourth one here. So you see, let's see if I can line these up. Okay, you see how this here is now, and we fixed that. It's a little wider. And see this flimsy tongue? Well, this tongue, I'm pressing real hard. It's not flimsy at all. See, I'll get a side view. See, I'm really pushing hard on that, and then side view here. See how that, so this tongue is for added support. And you'll see here there's a little bit more room inside. It's to fit your foot. Oh, and look how stiff this is. I can't even like push it in. Look at that. Boom. So we got it stiff, probably too stiff. And that's what I'm going to talk about. See, it's so stiff it actually hurts. And what I want to do is I want to make it less stiff in certain areas like the heel, and perhaps less stiff here up on top, so that this top area here can flare out. See how it's pushed in? I want to take this and I want to push this out here a little bit more. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about what has to be improved with this fourth prototype. So one less hook, and I'm going to put a hole in its place. So here, let me show you. So this hook here, this here, I want to take that hook out. I want to put a hole there, because I think this would it's just better. There's too many hooks here, and I think it's just because of both the looks and also because of how it ties up. It's just easier when you have 4 hooks, and it just laces better when you have that hole there, right, as opposed to a hook. So 4 here. That's number 1. And number 2 is the eyelets for the laces must be a lot thicker or wider. You can't see here, but they just weren't wide enough, and I had to take a screwdriver and I really had to just ram it in there, in and out to make that hole really nice and wide so I can get these laces in there. And so if you know, once the skate's on the market and I say you get a few orders, I don't have to start doing that on every single eyelet, you know, and that could also cause blemishes, or it could destroy the boot a little bit in regards to the design. So I'm gonna have to ask them to to actually put bigger holes here for the eyelets, for the laces. And then now number 3 is the tongue has to be more flexible. Okay, so part of what I wanted to do, I'm going to sit down so I can hold this correctly. See, it's a nice and strong tongue, so it supports your jumps. You can go up and jump, and you can lean forward, and you don't have to worry about the boot breaking down as quick. You know, it's just more for durability reasons and also for comfort too, so that you don't get lace bite. Well, it turns out I think we overdid it a bit much, because you can see how it's thick here, and they did taper it off so that this tongue could fit inside the boot, but it doesn't fit very well because it's like, oh, I can't get it in there. And I think this might also be solved slightly with this boot widened. So I think we're gonna have to just make it a little bit more flexible on the edges, just slightly more, or we might just be able to leave it the way it is, considering that we're gonna widen this boot. So these edges here are gonna come out to here. I have a feeling we're gonna have to do both. We're gonna just make it so that it stays thick here, but whatever thickness is here, just a little less, so that this can actually bend a lot easier and fit in. Alright, so that's that issue. So I talked about a wider boot and a tongue that's more flexible. So the top of the boot must taper off a little bit more, and I also talked about that too. So this tapering off, in other words, this boot has to come out here so that your foot can fit easily in there. And maybe so that this is a little bit more flexible. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I want to give up durability. The point of the skate is for durability. But anyways, this have to taper out. And less leather around the ankle bone to make it so that it doesn't hurt as much. So what I want to do is I want to make it so that there's less leather here where your ankle fits, your ankle bones are, so it doesn't hurt, because right now it's pushing against it. A lot of this pain problem is going to be caused when we widen this boot. See how the boot sort of comes up? You can see how it is widened, and the boot comes up like this, but essentially the boot, I want it to come out like this. Like this point here is going to come out, so that the boot comes out and then comes back in, so it fits really well for your ankle bone, and so that it doesn't hurt. Additionally, I want to put a lot more cushion in here. This isn't enough cushion, and there's not enough room either. You could see that if we put more cushion, you just couldn't get your foot in there. So widening of the boot and more cushion, taking maybe a knife and just cutting out more leather here. When they make the skate, they wouldn't be cutting out leather, they'd just be putting less leather in to begin with. So those are the major issues. So I'm going to turn back around now. And as I talked about, a lot more cushioning, especially by the ankle bone. And the last thing was that the last didn't fit properly. The last being is the bottom, the skate here. So I have a 275 blade holder. That's the length. So you'll see how it fits. So you can see here how, if I can get the angle right, you see how there's like a little bit on that edge there, and if I bring it along to the front, there's a little bit on the front too. I only have 3 sizes in these blade holders, only 3. So these 3 have to fit for 6 different sizes. So this blade holder could fit the entire length of the boot, or it could be a bit short like on here. And this is like a 10.5 boot, or maybe even 11 boots. So considering that has to be accounted for on how it gets mounted, and just be aware that when you, or if you do buy the boot, that it's not going to fit exactly to the bottom of the boot here. And in that regard too, in regards to fitting, this space here along the bottom, it's hard to see, but the space, I have the screws in here, but so it's not as visible, but there is space, which means this last, as I had spoken just prior, this last is not done properly. In other words, this has to fit more towards the angle of the blade holder. So that means we got to go back to the last manufacturer and have them make up another template until we get it right. And then once we get that right, then we can go and do all the standardizing sizes for the rest of the boot, whether you're a 7 or whether you're a 12. Okay, and basically that is it. The only other issue are two things. You can see that the screws here are regular screws. Well, they will be regular screws once I sell them, but I'm probably going to dip them in red paint or something like that. They won't look, I'm not sure if they'll look polished. It's probably look better that they look matte, but they'll fit in. It's not like they're just going to be looking silver like that. It's kind of rough looking. And lastly, the inner linings too. See how it's white? Well, since there's going to be 3 models, I'm going to start off with the professional model on the market. That white inside is going to be for the professional model, and I'm considering having different model, different size sole linings. I'm not sure the exact technical term, but different sole linings depending on this type of the skate. So if you're a beginner or intermediate, it might say beginner might have, I don't know, blue, and intermediate might have green, and the professional will have white down there. So that is the only other thing that I want to discuss. Alright, so that's it. That's the 4th prototype, and see, you know, lots of things to go over, but the 5th prototype, hopefully about 2 or 3 months from now, and all these problems will be solved, and hopefully I can actually take it onto the ice and test it out. Couldn't take this one on the ice, obviously, because of all the problems and the pain, but looking forward to the next one. Take care, guys.